Well, hello, everyone. It's Laura Stack, the founder and CEO of Johnny's Ambassadors, where we educate parents and teens about the dangers of today's high THC marijuana on adolescent brain development, mental illness, and suicide. Johnny's Ambassadors was formed after our 19-year-old son, Johnny, died by suicide on November 20th, 2019 from delusion he experienced from dabbing high THC marijuana products. We have with us another excellent guest to help you in your quest to help your children be marijuana free, and whom I will introduce in just a moment after I go over a couple quick logistics. This session is being recorded, so please share it with your friends and family. Neil has kindly provided a handout, which is a PDF of his slides with notes. You can either find it on this page if you are watching the video, or live. It is in your control panel. Neil will speak for about 45 minutes using slides, and then he will take 15 minutes of your questions at the end. So this is your opportunity with a parenting expert to get those questions answered. So please type them in to the question box as we go, and we will cover those at the end. And Neil has also kindly offered to answer any leftover questions, and we will find out how to get a hold of him at the end, also for those of you who are listening to this as a recording. So without any further ado, Neil D. Brown, LCSW, is a psychotherapist, author, speaker, and behavioral program consultant based in Santa Cruz, California. A graduate of the University of Denver, Graduate School of Social Work, Brown became a student of structural family therapy and brief therapy, from which he evolved his own highly actionable therapeutic model for helping families transform out of unhealthy family patterns. He also hosts the Healthy Family Connections podcast. Neil, thank you so much for being one of Johnny's ambassadors.
Thank you, Laura. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm all excited to make my presentation to your guests and the guests yet to come. My presentation today is don't play cat and mouse with teens and cannabis, and that should tell us something, because in that cat and mouse game of teens and cannabis, we're not solving a problem. And so that's what this presentation is all about. As Laura kindly reported, I am a student of structural family therapy and brief therapy, and I have evolved over the years my highly actionable model, which is in this book on your screen, Ending the Parent-Teen Control Battle. And I wanted to write a book that was not your basic parenting advice. I wanted to write a book that is about family therapy and how a family therapy can create change, lasting, sustainable change. So in our talk today, we will look at this whole concept of control battles, because control battles are the petri dish in which problems and unresolved issues live. So today, I hope that we'll be able to recognize and understand the destructive power of control battles, learn about the basic elements that support them, and learn two powerful tools to end them. And in so doing, we want your teen to be empowered to make healthy, self-valuing decisions. So what do we hope for when we start a family? Oh, we just want to share all the wonderful things that we experienced as children. And of course, we want to leave out and not make the same mistakes that our parents made and that were hurtful to us. We want to love our children and have them feel our love, and not have them feel some of the negative things that we felt when we were kids. So we want to have all these great things happen, and that invites us into the world of having a family. Then we discover I'm out of bandwidth. I can't be as wonderful as I want to be all the time. And even when I do really good things for our kids, they're ungrateful and don't think what they got is so special, and they're not all that grateful for it. And I can't do everything. And so sometimes I'm not a perfect parent. And besides, my child is very different than I thought they would be. They have different issues. And so now it's a little more challenging than I thought. I look forward to timeouts and taking phones away and turning off computers. I thought it was all going to be about love and support. Okay, so where does that leave us? Well, you know, we have some bad moments and bad days, and who can say that that's not reasonable or normal? I have my bad moments, my kids have their bad moments. That's actually important, because that really is life. Our kids need to be able to make their mistakes and have their bad attitudes, and they need to be able to learn and grow from that. And they need to see that their parents aren't perfect, and we need to be able to make our mistakes and hear from our kids about that, or maybe even proactively go back to our kids with that. So bad moments, bad days, that's part of life, and it's an important part of learning and growing. But when patterns, when problems get embedded in patterns, then we have a control battle. Control battle are situations where we already know it's gonna, like if I'm gonna face a problem with my kid, I always know that it's not gonna go well. I'm gonna struggle with how to approach them. They're gonna fight back against me, either passively or actively. And very often, I don't even like how I feel and how I behave. You know, the thing about control battles is at some point, they become their own thing. A control battle starts to be this thing that I already know it's going to go bad before I even start it. And because I know it's going to go bad, I'm already tense myself, and my voice might even project that tension. And my youth is going to anticipate that it's going to go bad, or I'm going to want them or bawl them out for something, or even if I'm being nice, they're already poised for resistance in one form or another. So this whole pattern of interaction has now become a homeostatic element in the family dynamic. Homeostasis, you know, that in systems like a pond is a homeostatic environment. It also has to grow and change. In other words, it needs oxygen and fresh water to come in, but then there are elements that want to hold it together and so that it can stay clean and vibrant. So families are the same way. They have homeostatic elements that we can anticipate things being reasonable and predictable, and hopefully in positive ways. But then we also have change, which is how it flexes to accommodate our kids growing, or maybe there's been a change in the family, there's an illness, or someone got laid off, and so now we have to make an adjustment. So homeostasis, yes. Change, yes. But when we have a control battle, now we're not changing when we need to change. We're not changing in a good way. So now it's its own thing. This negative interactional pattern has a life of its own. And that's why I call it the beast. And I call it the beast so that we realize that it's this pattern of interaction that's the problem. It's not the kid, although they might be doing things that we need them to do differently. But we're not battling the kid, and we don't want to fault ourselves. And I can give you evidence that you're not a bad parent, because you probably are parenting other kids and are functioning really well in those other environments. And you've got some kids that are thriving with your parenting, and some that are in a control battle with you. So we're not bad parents and we don't have bad kids. What we have is a beast. And if we can focus on starving this beast, then we can begin to make some progress. So once again, control battles are not to be taken lightly. When a teenager or a youth is in a control battle, now instead of learning and growing about how to manage themselves, how to deal with responsibilities, how to learn about themselves in positive ways and how to make progress and set goals and achieve those goals, they're really getting good at resisting, undermining, often manipulating, fighting. And whatever they practice is what they're going to get good at. And so they're practice negative behaviors, they're going to get really good at negative behaviors. Control battles create stress throughout the entire family. Everybody feels it. And so there's a kind of an unhealthy emotional environment that exists in the family. And then, of course, it takes a tent while we're dealing with the problem. The other kids in the family may not be getting the attention and getting their developmental needs met or the support they need from their parents or from the other youth. And there is this last bullet point, parental burnout. Does that sound familiar to you? That's when you keep putting effort into something that keeps not changing and not getting better. So you keep working hard, you keep getting no place, and it's something that you care about a lot, but you seem to not have, or one seems to not have the ability to turn the dial on it. So that's what control battles in general are. But now let's talk about adolescence for a minute, because adolescence is a petri dish for control battles. Why? Because that is the period of time between childhood and young adulthood when kids transition from total dependency on parents to a high degree of independence. And I say high degree of independence because adolescence ends at what? Yes, it ends at about 25. So 18, 19 is not the end of adolescence, but just for the purposes of our discussion today, we're going to talk about that 12 to 18 age range. And that's a period of time when kids are, for the first time, experiencing making choices, developing an identity, choosing their friends. Before you go into a classroom and those are your friends, the teacher and the kids, that's where you go and those are your friends. Now in middle school, 7th and 8th particularly, kids begin to create their own friendships and their own sense of identity, which music I'm going to listen to, which kids I'm going to hang out with, how I'm going to do my hair, what kind of clothes I'm going to wear. And that's the early part. And so these kids may be more like children than like young adults, but they're just kind of beginning to walk over what I call this footbridge. And the reason I like this metaphor, this model called a footbridge, is because if you can see, our 12, 14-year-old is really just starting up this footbridge. He really can't see to the other side where the land of young adulthood is. They're trying to figure out how to become teenagers. They're not trying to figure out how to be a young adult. They're trying to figure out how to be cool or how to be me in this new world of teenagerdom that I'm entering. And then 15-year-olds, they're pretty solid in their adolescent identity. They know a little bit about who they are, certainly from a point of view which kids they're going to hang out with and what they're going to consider cool and what they're going to consider less cool. And they're kind of far away from their stuffed animals, and they're not yet all that worried about what college they're going to go to, or if they're going to go to college. Some might be, but often, they're just seeing themselves very much in the land of adolescence, and they're not thinking about this is ever going to end, really. And then when you get into your 16-year-olds, junior year for sure, kids start to think about, wow, this whole thing of high school is going to end in another couple of years or a year, and I'm going to have to figure out what's going to happen next in my life. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? So this looming cliff, the end of the ride of being mostly a family member and now being on your own is looming, and that can create a lot of anxiety for kids. So this whole transition of kids going from childhood to young adulthood is a handing off of responsibilities from parents to kids. So rather than parents being in charge of behaviors and schedules and activities, increasingly kids, now moving towards young adults, become increasingly responsible for managing their time, managing their responsibilities, and being able to do that effectively. As I don't need to inform you that sometimes they do it rather ineffectively and sometimes not at all. So that's where the rub is, and that's where the parent-teen control battle has such an easy time finding a place to land. But that's what we want to do. It's not that we want to keep our kids doing what we want them to do. What we want is for our kids to learn how to make self-valuing decisions and do what they want to do, except do it safely and responsibly. Make sense? That's what we really want, is for our kids to be able to figure out how to manage their responsibilities and enjoy their lives. So we want them on the road to happiness and success. They can't do it by us being in charge of them all the time. So they've got to learn the responsibilities and how to manage them effectively and make their own choices and do that effectively and safely. I don't think I told you anything new, but that's where we want to go. Now, how do we get sucked into these control battles? Well, here's 3 major control battle producing elements. One is reactivity. In other words, my kid does something and I get upset about it, and now I'm responding with my upsetness. I'm reacting emotionally, I'm reacting quickly, I'm not being thoughtful. And when I do react like that, what's happening is I'm on defense and my youth is on offense. They're initiating something and then I'm reacting to it. So that gives them, if you think about it in tennis, that gives them the serve, and now I have to respond to the serve, and the server usually wins. So I'm not at my best if I'm reacting, and I'm giving away a lot of power when I'm reacting. And now their action and my reaction are now kind of a predictable element working together, unfortunately, in a negative way. Now, that's not to say that as human beings walking around and someone says something we don't like, that we should never react to it, or that raising kids that we don't react sometimes without thinking. It's just like, hey, knock it off. That's a reasonable thing to do a lot of the time. But we're talking now about a control battle. And what we're talking about is change and ending a control battle. So if we're going to end a control battle, some of those natural behaviors that we often use have to change. And so reactivity is one of those things that we can predictably anticipate will feed the beast, that will encourage the control battle. So that's one element that we want to eliminate. The other one is our negative emotional tone, which when our kid is doing things that we're upset about, getting involved with cannabis, not managing their responsibilities, not getting off of their gaming computer when we ask them to, that's going to annoy us. And so we're going to be upset about it, and we're going to respond in an emotional tone. Very common, very reasonable, except, you guessed it, when we're in a control battle. So communicating with an emotional, with our tone, the tone is actually a very important part of the communication. And so that's sending a very negative message about how we think about our youth. Because once we're in a control battle, everything has been very personalized. So if I'm communicating in a negative tone, then I'm communicating a negative, I'm inviting a negative relationship, and I'm communicating that you're not okay. That might not be my intention, and of course it's not my intention, but that's the message that our youth is going to receive. Once again, in a control battle, we have to look at all these elements that are going to feed the beast. This other bullet point, over focusing on the other, might be the most significant element in feeding the beast. Over focusing on the other means my intention, my goal is to get you to change your behavior. When I take a position that my goal and my intention is to get you to change your behavior, that leaves for the other to resist my effort. I'm trying to get you to change. You're trying to not have to change. The harder I try, the harder I push, the harder you push back. Now, once again, pushing back can be passive or avoidant, or there's other ways that control battles can live. But the point is, if I'm trying to get you to change, you can put all your effort into trying to not change. And the opposite of that is me as a parent taking responsibility for my behavior as a parent and allowing you as a youth to take responsibility for your behavior. So I'm not going to try to change your behavior. I am going to manage my behavior in some very critical ways, which will be talked about very soon here. Make sense? Over focusing on the other means I'm not focusing on the things I have control over as a parent, and I'm over focusing on the things that you need to take control over as a youth. So that brings us to the place of how to actually move forward. These are tried and true tools, and so let's get started. We start with a healthy vision of your child. Why do I even say that? Because when we've been fighting with our kids, when we're fighting with them, we have negative feelings. Negative feelings make us think negatively. When we think negatively, we say and do negative things. So we want to change that. We want to change this pattern. So changing this pattern starts with having a healthy vision of our youth and communicating that healthy vision of our teenager. Teenagers are just now getting into that place where they're going to transition to young adulthood. They don't know how they're going to be as adults. They don't know they're going to be okay. They don't know that they're traversing that footbridge correctly or not correctly. They're insecure about the whole journey. It has to be our job to say, hey, this is a journey. You're going to make mistakes. That's part of the plan. And it is my job to support you and get the bumper guards in place and to make sure that you're safe and that you've got parents that care and can set some limits and enforce some limits. But you're going to make mistakes. You're fine. I believe in you. Even if you're having troubles, I believe in you. So that's a critical piece, and what makes it so critical is if there's been a control battle going on, that healthy vision, the communication of that healthy vision has been undermined. And very often kids are thinking that their parents aren't happy with them, they don't like them, and they don't believe in them. And so we have to go overboard in transitioning back to our initial thoughts and feelings about our kids, which are very positive, our belief in them. And we have to be able to communicate that with sincerity and warmth and positivity. We need to decide that we're going to notice the good and much less notice the bad. We're not, trust me, we'll be dealing with it. But we have to be talking about the good, and we have to be talking about it sincerely, and we have to be talking about it with an affect and a tone that communicates that, as well as with the words. One of the things that we can do very easily when we're seeing a lot of negativity with our kids, that's going to help us stay in that lane of a healthy vision, are our communication skills, our listening, our validation, and our empathy. Even if our kid is saying, "You suck, I hate you, why can't I go out? This is ridiculous," we need to be able to say, "I hear that you're really upset. I can see that you are upset. It makes sense that you're upset. I want you to know I care about that. And we can talk about going out another time." So we've got to be able to not fight, not react, and stay in the positive side. Listening, validating, empathizing are some tools that can help us when the going gets tough in articulating that healthy vision. Those are tools that can really help us stay in communicating that healthy vision of our youth. Remember, they're very insecure creatures, and they need they need us to be really confident and warm for them to be for them to buy in. Plus, when we set limits with them and we discipline them in one form or another, it's our healthy vision that we've communicated to them and our intent on healthy relationship with them that gives us that kind of moral authority to be able to set those limits. So it's the moral authority to set limits comes from believing in our kids and communicating our belief in them. Now we're going to talk about a concept which might sound like it's just words, but it's actually extremely profound, and I will explain that. We are going to move from giving consequences for certain behaviors to offering privileges for certain behaviors. So we're going to move from you did something wrong, you're going to get a consequence, to if you want privileges, these are the things that you need to be able to do. Now, in either case, the kids may not get to do something that they want to do or have something that they want. But the frame of that is incredibly important. And if we're changing from consequences to privileges, it's going to be a little confusing, often for parents as well as for kids, about how to do that. Let's talk about the difference a little bit more, so maybe it can go in a little deeper. Consequences are what we do to get our kid to change a behavior. If you do this, I'm going to take that. If you do this, you're not going to have a phone. If you do that, you're going to be grounded. These are the things I'm going to do to you. What's the kid going to say when that happens? You're being too strict. You're being unfair. None of the other kids' parents care. Marijuana is just a natural substance. Besides that, it's legal. Everybody does it. Why is it such a big deal to you? I did some homework. I didn't have to do it all tonight. I can do more tomorrow night. So there is this, giving consequences makes us the jailer and makes them the prisoner, makes them the jailed, and they get to be victims of us in their own minds. Now, privileges, if we can establish that privileges are things that kids earn, well, then the locus of control, the person who has control over whether a privilege happens or not, whether an opportunity to go and do something or a thing, them getting something that they want, that belongs to them. They can know that it earns it, and they can know how it's earned. Well, in the last bullet point here, we talk about high standards, and high standards are a very important part of how kids earn privileges. Why? Because in control battles, very often standards have been dumbed down to, well, if you just do some homework, or if you just get by, or if you just get C's, or if you just pass your classes, then I'll let you off of grounding. And once we do that, now we're just, that's where a control battle lives. It's like, if you do this, I'll do that. If I'll do that, will you do this? Now now we're bartering, and that's a control battle. What we want to say is, you are a fabulous kid with high potential. And the way you get privileges is you live up to your potential. Now, I'm not saying every kid has to get A's or even A's and B's, but they do have to be committed to their responsibilities up to the best of their ability. And their responsibilities are often school responsibilities and home responsibilities and social responsibilities. So are they eating right? Are they going to bed at a reasonable hour? Are they turning off their phones when they need to be turning off their phones? Are they doing their homework with conscientiousness and quality intention? Many kids have ADHD or learning disabilities and may need some extra help and may not have really high performance, but are they working at it? And are they working at it earnestly with their with cooperation and quality intention? That goes over to the other element that's so important for earning privileges, and that's having a good attitude. I know they're teenagers, so good attitude, teenagers, do those two things really add up? Well, yes. I mean, there will always be a certain amount of eye rolling and puffing, but I don't expect to be cussed out. And at the end of the day, I need respect and cooperation. If I can have respect and cooperation, even if it's like, I'm my own person, you can't tell me what to do. Okay, you are your own person. I'm not going to tell you what to do. And the garbage needs to go out. And then you let it go. And then if the garbage goes out, they're getting the message. If the garbage never goes out, it's like, you know what? That's not cooperating. I'm using that as an example. It might not apply in your case, but the point is, manage your responsibilities up to the best of your ability and be respectful and cooperative, and that's how you earn your privileges. It's not complicated. Responsibilities and attitude, those are the two things. So high standards are very important because that's how kids learn to develop themselves. That's how they develop their potential. That's how they feel good about themselves. That's how they develop self-efficacy and self-esteem. That's how they get that, wow, when I try, I can actually do this. And that's that sense that when they apply themselves, they can do things. That's such a source of empowerment for kids. Now, I'm in a control battle with my kid. How do I go from here to there? How do I make this shift from how things have been going, this chronic control battle that's been driving us all crazy? How do we get from here, the control battle, to there, healthy family interactions and my youth applying themselves reasonably well? Well, there is this thing I call the talk. So making the shift goes like this. We will have a talk and we will want to acknowledge. So here, let's just set this up. My teenager and I are not doing it, and we're really struggling. They've got their privileges and they're not managing their responsibilities. I make a time. Hey, before anything goes forward, we need to have a talk. Kid saunters in. We need cell phones to go away. Now we start with, okay, let's talk about it. We're having some problems, and the problems that I'm having are with some things that of your behaviors, and how I've been dealing with them has not been that great. And I feel badly about how I've been dealing with you and your issues, but we still have to deal with those issues. In dealing with it, I've given you the wrong idea. I've given you the idea that I'm upset with you all the time, and I'm not. I'm upset with the behavior, but I think you're a great kid, and I think, you've been, we haven't been seeing your best, but you're a great this, you're a great athlete, you're a great poet, you're a great friend to your friends. I see the way you manage the animals. It's beautiful, it's fabulous. So, your kid has many wonderful qualities, and you're going to enumerate all of them. Now, the next thing we're going to say is, and you have all these privileges that you've been getting as if you've been managing your responsibilities and you've been having a good attitude, when you have not been managing your responsibilities and you have not been having a good attitude. That's on me. I've been giving you the wrong impression. I've been giving you the impression that it's okay not to manage your responsibilities, and I've been giving you the impression that it's okay to be disrespectful and uncooperative. And for that, I owe you an apology. I'm really sorry about that. And I need for you to do your best, because your best is fabulous. You're an excellent kid. You're capable of so much, and you've been investing so little. So we need that to change. And I know that you can do really well when you apply yourself. And so me not holding you to that standard is kind of insulting to who you are and your potential. And it's shame on me as a parent if I don't help you achieve your best. So I want you to know that that's our expectation, that you're going to manage your responsibilities, and of course we'll be specific, and that we're going to see a much better attitude from you. If there's things you need from us, we're definitely open to hearing about that and learning about that and doing things better and differently, and communicating better and differently. Going forward, I need you to do this, that, and the other thing. This isn't us being negative towards you. This is us establishing what are healthy values for you and for our family. We've got to all live up to high standards, and we've got to all do our best, and we all have to be respectful of each other. So that's where we're going. That's where we're going next. And these are the privileges that you enjoy, and they're and in many cases we'll actually be eliminating them. But whether they're phones or cars or being able to go out when you want to go out, those are all privileges. I'm sure there are many other ones that you could think of. So I think I moved too fast. Here's an example of the talk, and before we do, I'll talk a little bit about this case. I'll finish up this quickly here because I see I'm running out of time. We have a 17-year-old. He's the middle of 3 children. Very strong personality. He's always been a star. He's an athletic star. He's always been bright, been able to get his work done with minimal effort and get by with somewheres It's often A's, but also B's and occasional C because he doesn't care. He's very independent and always likes to do his own thing and fights hard. And he's got a very strong personality, sometimes overwhelming the personality of his parents. And because he's had essentially good grades and has had mostly good things going for him, parents have let him have that independence. Parents have recently gotten divorced. It was the best quality divorce that we could hope for. It was amicable, and mom has always been the primary parent, but dad less active in his parenting, but supportive of what mom wants to do. And now what's happened is our young man has had several episodes of coming home under the influence of cannabis and alcohol. And mom's gotten information from the other kids that there's been at least some experimenting with other drugs. So mom came to me to talk about what to do. Son was not interested in participating, and she was not interested in having that fight. So we developed the talk, and the talk led to my involvement with the youth and his father and his mother, and we got things back on track. Here's how that initial talk went. Max, you're an amazing young man, and you've done excellent things in your very young life, and I want you to know I'm proud of you. I know you have many good friends and good grades, and you're a fabulous athlete. And right now things have been really hard. This pandemic has really kind of limited a lot of the things that you love to do, and we're all a little bit depressed and having less of a good time than we've had before. And the divorce has taken a toll too. You and I have been fighting a lot, and we've been fighting about whether marijuana is an acceptable thing or not an acceptable thing. And you've told me you were gonna use less, and I'm not sure that you are using less, and I'm not happy with it. I do apologize for all the fighting I've been doing with you. I'm sure that has not been pleasant for you. It's made it seem like I'm angry with you, and maybe even thinking I'm against you, and maybe that, maybe you feel like you've lost your mom, or maybe you feel like you don't care and you never want a mom. But I want you to know that that's not where I'm coming from. What's in my mind is I'm very proud of you, and I love you the same today as I always have, and I want what's best for you. You're in your junior year, and this is no time for us to take our foot off the pedal and to allow you to make a lot of destructive decisions. Right now is a time for you to manage the stress of the pandemic and the stress of our divorce and the stress of being a teenager, and to do it as well as you possibly can. And right now, drugs and alcohol have to go away. Yes, that includes cannabis. We're no longer going to be talking about how much you can use or if you can use it, or if you can use it once a week. What I want you to know is we're not going to be having that conversation at all. It's time for you to decide how you're going to be clean and sober. That's the next thing for you to figure out. I'll support you in any way I can, but those things. But we're not going to be talking about how much marijuana you can smoke and if you can drink once in a while at a party. What we're going to talk about is that those things have to go away, and you have to make some new decisions about what your priorities are. And so what I want you to know is your phone is no longer operable. Dad and I have both agreed you're not going to be using the car except for very specific events, and if those get violated, there'll be no car at all. We need you to do some serious thinking about all this and have a plan for drug-free behavior and what your priorities are going to be and how you're going to make that happen. So this this is just a little timeout. Recalibrate, think about what's important to you, where you want to go in life, and how Dad and I can support you. And right now it's going to have to be drug-free and alcohol-free. And that's something for you to put some time and energy into thinking about. So that's an example of how a talk, the magic shifting talk might go. You might notice that in that presentation that I wasn't clear about how long he was losing his privileges for or how he might get them back. There is this concept I call the magic of the gap. And when I say you're grounded for this period of time, or you're losing your phone for this period of time, or until you test negative, all those things. Now, once again, I'm in charge and I'm the jailer, and he's the victim, and he's having to comply with my rules. And what I'm saying is, this isn't about my rules. This is about values, and this is about you being your best self. So I'm just going to put it back on him, and then I want to have another discussion or two. So when he says, well, when can I get my phone back? I'm not drinking anymore. I'm not using. The answer is, well, let's talk about it. What have you decided? What have you figured out? What are we going to do about your investment in school? And what's your plan for that? And I want to know that you're serious, and I want to see the attitude be different. I don't want to be fighting with you, and I need you to trust that Dad and I both want you to have privileges, but they need to be in this new realm of you doing your best with a good attitude. So that's the magic of the gap, and that's a very important concept to maintain. And this is where you can find me. If you come to my website, there's all my podcasts are there. There's about 170 of them. Talked about every situation from left, right, up and down. There's some really good free stuff you can download and have for yourself for your own use. And there's access to my course that's based on my book, the Ending the Parent-Teen Control Battle parenting course. It takes everything in the book, it goes deeper and helps you skill build. So that's my presentation for today. And I am available, Laura, to take questions that might have come your way during this presentation.
Wonderful. Wow. I love the scripts, Neil. And I think if any parents listening are like me, many may be saying, gee, I wish I would have had this information a few years ago. That would have been so helpful. And it just really reminds me, and hopefully all of us listening, of the importance of getting professional help, not trying to wing it, going to family therapy. Your example of the woman coming to you because the child wouldn't. I think more parents need to feel empowered to do it alone, and then hopefully the rest of the family will come along. So thank you for these very specific examples. Yes, we do have questions. We have about 12 minutes, so everyone please type your questions in that you are having. It is your chance to ask Neil your challenging child questions. So I will just start at the top. What if you try to take your child's car and he refuses to go to school? That's a great question.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that beautiful? You're saying I'm going to hold you accountable, and your teenager is saying, no, you can't. If you do this, then I'll do that, and you're going to be more upset about my behavior than I'm going to be about my behavior. So the answer to that is no. We're not going to give you your car so that you can go to school. Your job is to go to school. Period. Now, if you're not going to go to school, I'm just going to have faith that you're going to go to school. You'll figure out how to get there. I don't think that you want to fail. I don't think you want to lose everything. So my advice to the parent is, don't allow yourself to be blackmailed into giving privileges, because like I said, he's probably gotten really good at that. That's the skill he's built. He's built
Sounds
the
like
skill of manipulation and control of parents. And so, you know, if you're not going to go to school, what are you going to do? You're going to get a job? What are you going to do? You know, what's up?
and let them be accountable. I'm hearing you say if they choose not to go to school and they aren't there to take a test and they get a bad grade, you need to be okay with that as a parent as well, I'm guessing.
In the short term, I mean, I think in the longer term, you know, if it looks like this is a kid who can sink like a stone, having them have the car is not going to be the solution.
Right.
Because, you know, if they're not invested in school, they're not invested in school, and giving them the car is not the investment, is not going to change their investment to it. If they're absolutely, you know, beyond parental control and disinvested in their life in any healthy way, then we have another level of problem that we have to take on, and maybe a therapeutic school or an intensive, an outpatient intensive treatment program or something like that would be what's appropriate for them.
Yes, I wish we had known about these and thought about it in time before Johnny hit 18. After that, it was very difficult because he told the school, you know, you can't make me go to school. And at that point, that was true.
Yeah.
So that was a challenge. Okay. Thank you for framing up the control battle and tools to rebuild a relationship. My question is, what happens when your 18-year-old says no way to your condition, such as a removal of the phone? Okay, so the question is, Neil, someone is 18, they still live at home, they're in high school. Are we willing to let him leave the house if that's threatened? What if he says no way to stopping THC?
So this is someone who's 18 years old.
In her question, yes, her son is 18, and he said no way to the conditions of no THC.
Well, you know, if what's happening is the use of cannabis is, you can see that it is a profound element of dysfunction in their lives, then if you're supporting that, that's enabling what we call enabling behavior, right? So they're dictating the conditions of you taking care of me, and you don't want to be put in that position. So if they're going to leave, they're going to leave. You know, I would, as you remember from my talk, there are two major elements of change here. One is that positive communication about our kid and our belief in them and our caring about them. The other part is holding them accountable to high standards and letting them earn privileges. So I think when we have an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old, we want to say, look, let's get this on a different footing. I love you and I care about you, and I'm assuming that you respect me and care about me as well. So let's talk about this in terms of how you can move. Our job right now is to support you in moving forward in a healthy way. So let's talk about that. If we're just going to do cat and mouse with cannabis and just this whole fight about cannabis, that's not what I want to do. What I want to do is help you move forward in a healthy way. So are you moving forward in a healthy way? And is cannabis a positive part or a negative part of that? And that might be something that you have to discover in your life. Maybe I can't get you not to use cannabis, but what I can do is know that you're managing the essential elements of your life in a positive way, that you're being kind and respectful in a positive member of our home. And if things are all going well, that's the best we can do for right now. So would I kick a kid out because they're using cannabis at some level just because they're losing cannabis? No, but if their cannabis is part of a dysfunctional pattern where they're not working and they're staying out and they're not coming back, and except using the house as a bed and breakfast that you've paid for, then in that case, it might be time for you to think about being dysfunctional on your own. If you want to be functional, that's what we're here to support. We're here to support health and growth and development. We're not here to support enablement and dysfunction. So if you're going to fail, you're going to have to fail on your own. If you're going to succeed, nobody succeeds on their own. We all succeed with a lot of help, and we're here to help.
I love that answer, and it gives that child the choice. And if it becomes an abusive situation, mentally, verbally, physically, certainly, then it sounds like you're saying that at that point, that child is making the decision, it's probably best to leave. That as parents, we should never allow ourselves to be disrespected and treated that way.
Exactly. But we want to, we want to communicate that this isn't about, you can't do that here. What we want to communicate is, because of our love and respect for you, we can only support healthy behavior.
Got it. This is great. Someone says, just a comment. I loved this webinar. We have been raising a teenage grandson since he was 11. I am dealing with vaping, and we put him in a rehab. Okay, so they did need to take that step. You mentioned, Neil, I feel so empowered because I would not have done it this way if I were 30. Thanks for such a great clarification. So it sounds like you are affirming her decision there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the idea, is empowered parents make, do the right thing. They do what they know needs to be done. And kids benefit from that, and that empowered parents raise empowered kids.
Okay, great. Let's see. What if your child's values aren't your values? I'm guessing that means like you're having the talk around your values and responsibility and cooperation, and they just say, those are your values, they aren't my values, I'm thinking is what this question is.
Yeah, and that's, those are fighting words, right? Those are kids arguing with their parents, and they say, it's our values that you should participate in the household and do some things like set the table and sort the laundry or whatever. And the kids go, oh, well, those are your values. Those aren't my values. Those are just, now we're just using values as a word. It's really not a concept. And, as parents, you're going to raise kids in alignment with your values. That's your job. And if your kid, when they're an adult, are going to shift their values one direction or another, they're perfectly entitled to do that. But you are required by your own moral, spiritual obligation to raise kids the way you think is absolutely the best thing. That's the best way to do that.
I love that answer. Thank you. Okay, we have another question, and then we're at the end of our time. What do you think about drug testing for THC if you have set a boundary around that for your child?
It's a nice tool in certain circumstances. So, for instance, you have a younger teen, up to maybe age 15, and they've been using cannabis. Drug testing is a good way for them to be able to say no to cannabis, because they know they're going to be tested. And so they can say to their friends, I'm being tested, and so I can't use. And that gives them that support for being able to say no. For older teens, now we're doing a little bit of cat and mouse with cannabis, and that's not what I want to do. What I want to do is know that my teen is learning to make decisions more independently and responsibly, and I want to support that. And so am I seeing the effort? Am I seeing that sense of responsibility? Am I seeing that commitment to their own personal development? Am I seeing them invest in their passions? And if they're into music or into art, into performing arts, are they into getting into MIT? I don't care, whatever they're into, sports. Are they invested in it and engrossed in it? And are they a healthy member of the family in the household? And if those things are in place, they're probably not using cannabis. And if they are, they're using it at such a low level that I'm not going to know about it or want to know about it. So I don't want to just kind of, I don't want to be in, I don't want to be measuring. I don't want to be measuring under that circumstance. I want a healthy, positive kid who's in charge of their own behavior. I don't want to be in charge of their behavior.
Well, Neil, I think that your handout and your slides with your case study and your script will be so helpful to so many who watch this and insert your child and situation here. But if they need additional guidance and would like your assistance in helping them figure that out, they can go to your website. I'm guessing neildbrown.com.
Absolutely. That's where they'll find me, and I'll look forward to hearing from them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Neil, for your time, your talent. We appreciate you being one of Johnny's ambassadors, and thanks to all of you. We'll see you next time. Thank you.